I was about to turn 50. I was like, I'm a single mom. I'm definitely working another 20 years. That could be a whole nother career. I just did 22. I could do another 20 in a whole nother industry. And so I decided I had to really figure out what I was passionate about and what would excite me. And that was what I wanted to do. And so interior design was my hobby. And so I decided that, okay, this is my hobby. If I'm ever going to do something drastic and radical and try something different, it has to be now because I'm not getting younger. And there's never going to be a better time than right now. And so I decided that because of my age, I did not want to go work for someone else. I wanted to start my own business. Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, your host and companion on this incredible journey of career transformation. Get ready for inspiring stories, valuable insights, and a roadmap to shift your mindset towards a more fulfilling professional life. In each episode, we explore the remarkable journeys of individuals who made the leap from one career to another. As we navigate through these stories together, you'll find motivation, strategies, and the confidence to pursue your dreams. Whether you're feeling stuck, contemplating a change, or just seeking a dose of inspiration, this podcast is your weekly companion. Tune in every Thursday as we uncover the secrets to shifting your day job. I'm Brittany Cates, and I'm here to guide you on your path to a more fulfilling career. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Shift Your Day Job podcast. I'm Brittany Cates, and I'm grateful that you're here today. Before I jump into talking about my guest, if you are interested in getting some support as you begin your journey of career change, I offer a one-on-one coaching program that's tailored specifically to you and your needs, and I go through my dream career strategy to help you achieve your goals and start making those career moves that we talk about on the podcast every week. So if you're a fan of this podcast and you think that it's something that will help you as you make a career transition, make sure you follow me on Instagram at career.shift.brit and shoot me a DM, and we will chat about next steps. On today's episode, I am excited to introduce Jeanne Collins. She is a former leader in the corporate world turned professional interior designer. She has her own business and she's starting a lifestyle brand. She also wrote a book. I would say she is my first dream guest. I have a dream guest list, and she is one of the first ones that's on the list because I heard her on another podcast and decided then and there that she needed to be a guest on my show, and it happened. So we had a really amazing conversation. She's such a good speaker. She's very professional. She has a lot of life experience, a lot of career change and mindset advice to share. And we just had a really beautiful conversation. So I hope you enjoy it and learn as much as I did. Please join me in welcoming Jeanne Collins to the podcast.
Hi, Jeanne. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much, Jeanne, for being on my podcast. I'm actually super excited because I heard you on another podcast and thought to myself, oh my gosh, she would be perfect as a guest. And we have a lot of things in common. And then James reached out to me and was like, I don't know you, but I think there's someone that I have that would be great to be on your podcast. And I was like, it's meant to be.
It's meant to be. There you go. I love that. That's so great.
Yeah. So I'm excited for you to be here. I hear you are an interior designer who made a switch from corporate to your own interior design business.
Yeah.
And I am an interior designer as well. So where did you start and how did you get to this place where you are now? And tell us what that looks like for you.
Yeah, the short version of the career journey is I spent 22 years in advertising sales. And so I worked for a public company and I ran a sales team. I was vice president of sales. I ran a sales team. I had about 45 people that reported to me. And I worked in consumer packaged goods. So I did specialize in beauty. But I started out thinking I wanted to work in food marketing. So I landed into beauty, which was not what I thought would be my path, and then landed into sales and landed into leadership, and it just flowed. And I did that for 22 years and had a very successful career until I got fired. And January of 2020, I got fired. And I always knew the higher you get to the top, the more likely you are to get cut and the more expensive you are. And it doesn't matter how good you are. When you work for a public company, you're only as good as your last quarter to Wall Street. I got fired and I couldn't believe it. And I like to find myself as a vice president of sales. I was a single mom. I had a house, a big mortgage. And like part of my identity was that I was this vice president of sales. That's what I did. And I was also turning 50. It was the beginning of COVID. And so it was like midlife crisis is like staring me right in the face. And after I got fired, you go through all the emotions of getting fired and you're angry and how dare they, and you're sad. And then in some ways you're thrilled because you're like, okay, wow, now what? Excited about what might come. And then you're terrified. All these emotions that you go through. And every day it could change within half an hour what emotional spectrum you're on. But I very quickly realized that I was so burnt out from corporate America and the stress of reporting to a public company was just killing me. And so I very quickly realized that I needed to find something different to do. And I decided I had 20 more years to work. I was about to turn 50. I was like, I'm a single mom. I'm definitely working another 20 years. That could be a whole nother career. I just did 22. I could do another 20 in a whole nother industry. And so I decided I had to really figure out what I was passionate about and what would excite me. And that was what I wanted to do. And so interior design was my hobby. And so I decided that, okay, this is my hobby. If I'm ever going to do something drastic and radical and try something different, it has to be now because I'm not getting younger. And there's never going to be a better time than right now. And so I decided that because of my age, I did not want to go work for someone else. I wanted to start my own business, which I knew nothing about doing that. And I also decided I had to go back to school in order to get some education, formal education in interior design, because that is not my degree. My degree is in communications and I have an MBA. So that is not my degree, is interior design. So I did. So I went back to school. I did 2 online certificate programs at the same time. And I started my business 4 months later. And we're 4 years in now and the rest is history. And then along the way, about 1.5 years ago, I decided to write a book. Another thing I never thought I would do. I decided to write a book. So I wrote a book. So now I get to say I'm an author and I'm a speaker. And that's a whole nother career that I never would have imagined would have happened at all. So multiple drastic shifts in life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's been fun.
Good. I'm glad. Not too stressful along the way. Fun enough to keep going, huh?
It's fun enough to keep going, right? Stress. Yeah. I mean, owning your own business comes with a lot of stress, but it comes with a lot of benefits as well that I've really enjoyed. And it's opened up a whole new life for me that I didn't know existed. And it's opened up a whole new career path and also a whole new way of living and new friends and new network. So many things have drastically changed in my life as a result of getting fired. And a lot of times I think people think getting fired is such a negative. And I really was successful at taking that negative and turning it into something incredibly positive for my life. And I look at it like that was the greatest gift that company could have ever given me because now my life is so different.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that message because I feel similarly now that I'm working on a design team in a corporate setting for a public business, whatever, like it's just completely different. And that's actually how I felt when I first even left teaching and went into interior design. My first job was at Old West Elm, I think.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like, is that my first job?
I'm trying to think about that.
I'm like,
at least they still exist.
Yeah. And I just remember being in the back room of the store, this beautiful store, and learning something and I'm like, this is so different than anything I've done before. And it was exciting. And so I understand that feeling for sure.
And you just touched on the most important part of this is like you were learning. And I think sometimes we just do so much on autopilot after we've been doing it for a while also that we forget that it's exciting to learn. It's slightly terrifying as well but at the same time, it's more gratifying. The learning, the terrified and the fear part is equally overshadowed by the excitement of learning something new. And I think sometimes as we get to be adults after a while, we forget what it's like to learn new stuff and how invigorating it can be.
Yeah, because oftentimes when you're learning, you're having a new experience, right? And that's what life's all about, is having experiences and enjoying the journey. And you have more opportunity to enjoy it because you're doing something new and exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, and you grow too. And then it comes I'm in a slightly addicted mode to the learning at the moment.
Yeah.
I almost on the negative because I'm like, oh my goodness, I found all these new things that I'm so interested in that I didn't know I was interested in. I've opened this whole other world to a life that I didn't know existed. And so now there's so much to learn. It's fun.
Absolutely. I was wondering if we could talk about you mentioned your job was so much your identity that you felt like you had to move through that and figure and shift that, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that experience and moving away from allowing that to define you?
Yeah, it's hard because when you're an executive, you work 24/7, and so much of my time and the people that I interacted with and how I spent my time and where my brain power went was towards my job. And when you meet people, the first thing they ask is, "Oh, what do you do?" That's the typical question. What do you do? Not who are you? What do you do? And after I got fired, I was like, what am I going to put on my tombstone? Like, it isn't going to be vice president of sales. And I had to really absorb that. And I had a coach who was given to me after I got fired to help me with my resume and stuff. And she's, what are your hobbies? And I literally was silent. And I was like, that is so sad. And I was like, she's okay. I was like, I don't do anything other than be a mom and work and exercise. That's it. She's okay. How about what would you do if you felt like you had the time to do it? What things interest you? Forget about the fact that whether you're doing them now or not. What are you interested in? And then I came up with this whole spiel of, okay, if I could, I would do this. And interior design and photography and all of these things and construction and homes and real estate and architecture and gardening. And then I went through all these things. And that's what helped me get to a place to be like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not defined by my job. I can be defined by who I am and my passions. And then I transferred it to, what do I want my life to be like? What do I want my days to be like? And I really felt like I really wanted to feel like I was making a difference in someone's life. And that I felt was really important to me. And I felt like I did that as a manager because I helped people grow. And that was one of the traits that I really enjoyed about being a leader was I helped people grow and I helped them get better. And so I was like, I carried that through. And I was like, okay, whatever I do for a career, I want to feel like I'm helping people live a better life. And that statement is so broad that then it's, okay, wow. All right, what does that look like? And how are you going to get to that? And how do you take your skill sets and your passions and have that be the end result? And once that becomes the end result, as opposed to, I have to pay my mortgage, I need to pay my bills, I need to come up with a career. It's amazing how you make different choices, but those choices all lead to something that's very goal driven, but driven by a much more purposeful goal. And that is what has caused such this drastic growth into who am I and who do I want to be and what do I want to leave? What's the mark I want to leave? And I can assure you it wasn't being a vice president of sales because that's not enough. That's not living. Yeah.
I love that.
It's
this
a tough
idea
journey. It's tough,
Yes.
it's a lot of inward looking. And it's hard too when you have to do that inward reflection and you're, oh my goodness, I'm the most boring person on the planet. I really felt like, how did I feel like I'm fairly intelligent. How did I become so boring? And that was a tough realization too. And I was single at the time and I'm like, of course no one wants to date me. I'm not very interesting because all I do is work. Of course. And it was just, the whole journey was so eye-opening, but I love to talk about it to people because I feel like so many people are either right before that part of my journey or in that part of my journey. And it's helpful to be able to share, I got through that part and this is what I learned and this is what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the objectives of the podcast is to help people see there is this whole world of possibility for everyone. I've done it, you've done it, and it's an option. And so I love that example. Thank you for sharing that experience. It's all about expanding your mind instead of contracting. And so that kind of segues into this. You're in this whole learning phase and you just can't get enough of it. Would you mind sharing a few things that are exciting for you right now or that maybe some of those interests that you've taken on now?
Yeah, it's funny. I when you go and you talk to other entrepreneurs, they help me feel like I'm more normal because a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh my God, I'm constantly coming up with new ideas. I'm constantly coming up with ways new business ideas or new business extensions or line extensions or these things I want to do. And it's almost like once you start, it opens this Pandora's box inside of you of creativity and a life and a business mindset that I never knew existed. So I have my book. I am now starting a speaking career. I have my interior design business. I'm launching a lifestyle brand in June. I've found an incredible interest now in mindset and mindset coaching. So I just finished getting certified as a mindset coach. I have a huge interest now in nutrition. Not all of a sudden, I've always been interested in it, but now like an incredible interest in nutrition and food as health for you and supplements and herbs. And so like just the other day, I had to stop myself from signing up for taking some sort of wellness nutrition certification class because I was like, okay, when do you have time for that? Like you don't have, it was like 7 to 10 hours a week. I'm like, I don't have 7 to 10 hours a week. Like it's awesome that I'm so interested in that, but you have to put a pause right there. Come back to that when you have more time. I'm launching a podcast in August. It goes on because I didn't think I had any interest in podcasting, but I've been on maybe 60 podcasts in the last few months. And all of a sudden I was like, wow, there's so many things that I want to bring guests on related to my passion and related to my lifestyle brand. And so all of a sudden I was like, okay, now all of a sudden I'm going to become a podcaster. I didn't know I would do that. So it just takes you down these different roads of wellness and different things that I never knew, but it's become so much of who I am because one of the things I love about interior design is I focus so much on how the environments help improve people's lives and the energy of their homes. And that so much translates into all of the work I've done internally for myself, both physically and mentally and emotionally, to get to the place that I am now. And so I'm now seeing this synergy that 5 years ago, I would have had no vision for whatsoever.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So it's fun. And you meet new people and you see what they do. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that type of career existed. Like the number of careers that I have met people and what they do for a living, I never knew any of these things existed. And all of these people are running small businesses and they're really happy and they're impacting people's lives and they're making a difference and they have great life-work balance. And these are all industries I didn't even know existed before.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And that's what I found too when I started exploring my options. Again, okay, now what do I want to do instead of teaching? And I started learning about these opportunities or these like jobs that people are doing. I'm like, I could totally do that.
Yeah.
And they're making like 3 times as much money as me.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, I'm qualified for that. I can do that. And what I don't know, I can learn. It's okay. You don't have to know. Have you heard that whole quote about how women, like before they apply for a job, women have to feel like they have 90% of the credentials, where men feel like they only have to have, I don't remember the number for men, but I remember the women number is 90%. The men number is like 40% of the job qualification. And they'll still apply because we as women are just so conditioned to be like, I don't have all of that. So they're not going to, be interested in me. But it's amazing when you don't look at it that way, how many opportunities there are or could be out there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, it aligns with this idea of expansion, expanding your mindset, expanding your environment, like reaching out and just learning new things. Yeah. And
skills are transferable too. You've probably found this too, right? It's like I think as a society, we get so stuck in a box, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm a teacher. I'm a graphic designer. Okay, but yes, but that means you also have certain skills and those skills could be transferred to other things. And I think sometimes it's hard for us to see that linear path unless we meet someone who has a similar linear path. And so sometimes it's hard to figure out, well, if I have this skill set, where does that take me? Where do I go? But if you can do some work to figure that out, even if it's just networking, to get to that point to figure it out, all of a sudden, to your point, expansion, all of a sudden it's, wait, you don't have to be just in that box just because you're a graphic designer. There's so many things you could be doing.
Yeah. And I think it's a matter of being able to see, I applied the skill this way in this job, but then it's recognizing how it applies in other jobs. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's where people get like stuck. Oh, but it's not the exact same thing. But yeah, it really is. So oftentimes you do need some kind of support system or someone to be like, show you, actually, no, this is how it applies. You've got this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Can you talk so did you have some kind of support system when you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do next? And you're like, I'm going to do interior design. build my own business? Or were you just like doing that in a silo for a little while? What did that look like?
There's so much support as a single parent. I like anything that has ever happened in my life and all of my success is not me alone. It's just impossible. And even me as a successful person in corporate America, I'm only as good as my team. I'm just one person. I actually had a lot of success, and I'm a huge proponent of hiring coaches and hiring people who specialize in what you want to specialize in or where you're stuck. And so I did. I had a business coach in the beginning, like a career coach who helped me really force me to really look inward and figure out what I wanted to do. I had family members who were incredibly supportive of the concept of me digging into my savings to support myself to do this because, you don't make money in the beginning and you have to really be able to afford. And I'm fortunate that I could afford to be the sole investor of my business. And then even along the way, after I started my business, maybe 8 months into my business, I hired an interior design business coach. And she was like transformative in helping me understand all the things I didn't understand about the back end of a business because that's not my industry. I hired a PR person maybe a year and a half in, and she was pivotal in getting my business to where it is now and getting me the exposure because while I know a lot about marketing, I don't know a lot about PR, interior design, and that's not my specialty. So it's like you need people along the way. And then I also was really successful at building a network of other entrepreneurs and a network of other women in business. And like, they're my rocks. They're the people that I lean on when like I'm having a bad day, or we just always bounce ideas off each other. And they're a tribe of women that I would make time for any day to help while we're on our small business journey. And I always encourage people, if you want to go start a business, find a tribe, find a group of people that you can connect with. And even if that tribe is 2 people, it doesn't matter. Just someone else that you can bounce ideas off of and someone that has your back because they, in some capacity, have walked the walk or are walking the walk you're walking because it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. This idea of making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that are like-minded and are doing a lot of things that you're doing. Because when you're not surrounded by those same people and you're surrounded by people that are just used to like the day-to-day, like, no, this is just how life is, and really discourage you in the process of trying to open up this new pathway for yourself. So yeah, definitely finding support along the way. So I love those tips of coaching and finding an expert and then having that community to lean on as you go through the ups and downs of the process.
Yeah. And I also encourage people, when you're making a change like that, it's a transition. So it's a transition just for you, plus the loved ones around you, and also for your friends. And so, I lost friends when I made this transition because I was no longer in that lifestyle that I was in before. And I was in a different lifestyle. I was in an entrepreneurial lifestyle, and I was doing things that are very different than what they were doing. And I also, as my mindset journey started to expand, my mindset practices and journaling and meditating and the things that are important to me and the way I speak about these things and manifestation. And I was changing and I was evolving as a person. And that didn't necessarily align as well with some people who were in my life before. And that's okay. That's part of the expansion. And that's part of the joy of it, is going down these new paths and having these new people come in to help you that do become your support system based on where you are at that time and the growth that you need.
Yeah. Thank you for that reminder. You mentioned earlier about this idea of what do I want my life to look like and who do I want to become? Can you talk a little bit more about your experience and like what that looked like and maybe some tools that helped you narrow in and then start working towards it?
Yeah, it was right after I got fired. And so the exercises were all about, don't focus on what your job is, what are you doing, what are the tasks you're doing every day. The focus was about journaling and writing and really just free form brainstorming about, how do I want my life to look like? How do I want my life to look? And then how do I want to feel in that life? And it could be as simple as, I don't want to be exhausted every day. I don't want to be exhausted. What do I want my life to look like? I want to be able to go pick my daughter up at school at 2:00 in the afternoon if I want to, and not be worrying that someone is looking for me or that I'm not sitting at my desk, or that is not an acceptable thing to do. I wanted flexibility. I wanted to make sure I could work out every day. And if that had to happen at noon, that was my choice. And that was an acceptable way to spend my time, because I always told my team, I am a huge proponent of exercise. I think you should do it every day, and I don't care when you do it. And if it happens at lunch, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You don't have to report to me. I just want you to do it. I want you to embrace physical activity because I think it is so important, and it's so important for stress management. So just because that was my mentality doesn't mean that was the entire company culture, but I wanted to be in a culture that did support exercise, that did support really going on vacation and turning off. I used to go on vacation and there was never such a thing as turning off, ever. And so I was like, I want to work in a culture where that can happen, where there's enough support and there's a company culture that supports that. No, not to say that I ever would totally cut off, but I want to be able to have that experience in my life. And so I was focusing on, how did I want my life to look? Who were the people I wanted to be in my life? How did I want to feel in my life? How did I want to be energized? And then what parts of, after I did the work on what skill sets I felt I had, or what made me happy in that past job, and I was able to narrow down, like, I really did like mentoring people. I really did helping people. I liked leading by example. I liked seeing people grow and succeed and feel like they learned new things and accomplished new tasks. And I liked watching people move up the ladder. I liked seeing them get promoted. And so it was, okay, I like helping people. All right, then where are we taking that? We like to help people. And then, so it was all like these baby steps towards tons of journaling and writing and really circling the main point. And then after you do it long enough, the main points start to come back. And then it's, okay, this is the life I want to build. I want a life of flexibility. I want a life where I can help other people and feel like I'm making a difference. I want a life where I feel like I have control and where there's life-work balance. That was my number one aha out of all of it, was, why do we call this work-life balance? Who decided that's it? I made a conscious decision. It's life-work balance. I am not going to sacrifice life at the cost of work anymore. And all the decisions that I made from that day forward are all related to choosing life first and work second. I have to work just like everybody else, but not at the cost of living. And so there's a balance there, and figuring out how to accomplish that balance, and having that balance was part of the life that I wanted to have. And then once I started going through all those things, it became really apparent, maybe becoming an entrepreneur might be the right thing for you, because that's how this life that you want to build, being an entrepreneur might be it. And the reality is, I felt like I didn't have the right skills to become an entrepreneur, but that's just baloney, because you don't have to be proficient at every part of running a business. That's part of building a team. And that's what I was good at, was running a team. And a team is made up of people that have skill sets that aren't the same as yours. And so doing that successfully in corporate America is no different from doing that as an entrepreneur. It's no contractors, consultants, VAs. It's all the same thing. Finding people that have skills that you don't have or that you're not as good at, and bringing them on board and helping to coach and mentor them so that the outcome of the group is better than you as a person. Yeah. And bouncing it off of somebody else too. Having a business coach to bounce it off of and be like, because they also specialize in some of understanding the words that you say and challenging you to be like, but how does that feel? And I'd be like, oh, back to the emotion part? Okay. I was focused on like the tasks of the day. I don't want to have to sit in front of my computer for 8 hours a day. Like, I was focused on that. I don't want to be on Zoom calls for 10 hours a day. And it's okay, but let's go back to like lifestyle and how does that feel? And then, okay, then that means you want a job where you're out of the house sometimes. And I was like, yeah, but sometimes it's nice to be home. And it's okay, that's fine. But that's how you make your way to finding how you're going to define your life. And then once you can have a definition of it and goals of it, then you work on creating it, because you can't create anything that you can't see. And once you can see it, then you work on creating okay, how do I create that? What do I have to do to make that happen?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Lots of good bits and pieces for people to take from and start implementing. Journaling seemed to work really well for you. It might look a little bit different for somebody else, but it's an excellent tool to start getting those ideas out of your head. And then once it's written down, then the universe can't help but bring it to you, because it's like concrete.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like whiteboarding, right? It's okay, let's just brainstorm. There are no bad ideas. And we've all done that in some capacity in our life or in our school or in our education at some point in time. Everyone's had to go through some sort of just brainstorming exercise where you're just writing down ideas, right? And that's all it is. Whether you call it journaling or you're just writing, you can write on a whiteboard, you can write on a piece of paper, it doesn't really matter. It's just, there are no bad ideas. There are no bad thoughts. Just start to get it out there. And once you start to do that, my coach was like, you have to do this every day, every day. And it'll be painful in the beginning because you'll feel like you have nothing to say.
Yeah.
But over time, after you get used to it, you're going to start to see the same things come back, and you're going to start to open your brain up a little bit. And then you're going to be more comfortable with just letting the thoughts flow.
Yeah. Did you ever feel resistance towards I want this, but I don't think that's a reality. That couldn't actually happen.
Oh.
Did that come up for you? And how do you deal with that?
All the time. Like, I am human, right? Like, how in the world am I? I live in a very affluent place where there are lots of very successful interior designers who've been doing this for decades. And so the imposter syndrome of, which you and I were talking about before we got onto this podcast, the imposter syndrome of, who am I at 50 to think that I can go back to school and start a business and be good at interior design enough to compete at the levels of these other people? And even if I'm not to their levels, who am I to think I can compete in a town like this? And that's tough. Like, it's definitely tough. And I think you have to just have small wins along the way that help encourage you, that says, you know what? Yes, you can do this. And everybody is unique, and everybody's businesses are unique, especially if you're in a creative field. And so don't try to be someone else. Be you, and figure out who you are and what's unique about you. And then that will drive a business that will be successful if you find your point of difference. It's no different than a product that you would go buy at a store. What's that product's point of difference? Same thing when you're an entrepreneur and you have a service. What's your point of difference? And many times that's who you are that makes your business different.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not actually competing against other people. It's all about, am I being a little bit better than I was yesterday? Because it's all about the individual, and you will find your people that want to work with you because of who you are.
Because of who you are. Exactly. And people buy from people that they like and people they can connect with. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's all the same. People want to work with people that they like and that they feel a connection to, and that they feel respect them and value them as a human or make their lives better. And so if you remember those principles when you're going about it, then it makes it a little bit easier to deal with the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt that comes along with, can I really do this?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to learn a little bit more about, how did writing this book come about, and what was the purpose? What message are you wanting to communicate with it? And just talk a little bit more about that, because I know it's one of the things you said, I never thought I would do this. And then it came about. So I'd love to hear that story.
I didn't think I would do this. I always said, after I started my interior design business, I always said, every interior designer thinks it'd be cool to have a coffee table book. Who doesn't want your projects in a full, beautiful, hardbound coffee table book? We all do. It would be great. And so I always joked, someday I'd love to have a coffee table book. However, I said I would want my coffee table book to be different and to teach people something. And so I don't know what that is yet. And I don't have a big enough portfolio yet because I haven't been doing this long enough and I haven't figured out what my message is. But I think that would be a cool thing to do. And I have a degree in communication, so that would be fun. And the story of how I decided to write my book is actually interesting, because I had subscribed to some company's newsletter that helps people self-publish books. And I had gotten an email from the person who runs the company. I'm doing an 1.5-hour seminar on how to become a writer and how to write a book. And I opened it and I read it and I thought, that's interesting. And then I closed it. And then a couple days later, I got the email again. And it made me pause. And I was, okay, I got it again. It made me pause. I get hundreds of emails every day. It made me pause. I looked at my calendar. I was free during that 1.5 hours. And I thought, why not? I'll listen to the Zoom about how to become a writer and how to write a book. Maybe it'll help me down the road when I write an interior design book. And so I get on this Zoom for 1.5 hours. And at the end of the 1.5 hours, the last half hour of it was mind mapping. And so for people who don't know what mind mapping is, you come up with a subject in the center like a sun. And then you have the arms of the sun as if you're a child drawing a sun. And this center becomes the purpose of your book, and the arms become the chapters or subchapters or sections of your book. By the time I was done, at the end of that, I had on a piece of paper my entire book and my outline and everything about it and all the subjects and the purpose and what it was going to be about. And it was a memoir, and it was a memoir about my life and the lessons that I've learned And the reason why I chose that was because people always say to me, your story is so inspiring. I've been divorced twice. Second time I got divorced when I was 6 months pregnant. People don't do that. I've changed careers. I've started a business. I own a house by myself. And people always said, your story is really inspiring, and overcame stuff with my parents when I was younger. And so I thought the book was about that. Like, maybe if I tell my story, if I could help, the purpose was if I could help one other person make changes in their lives to live a better life, then the purpose of writing the book would be, that's it. That's it. To help one person change their lives to live a better life. And so that's how it started. And so at the end of that call, I was like, the book is staring me in the face. And I was like, how do I say no to this? This is very purpose driven. And so I committed that I was going to write a book. And so I committed that I would write every day from 5 to 6. And I hired a book coach because I had no idea how to self-publish or write a book for that matter. No idea, the process, steps. I knew nothing. And I did. And I wrote a book, and I committed that a year later, I wanted my book to be done. And it was done a year later. And it was a lot of time, a lot of visions, a lot of revisions, multiple editors, copyright editors, subject editors. A lot of people touched the book to get it to be where it is now. But it was a therapeutic journey to write about my life. It helped me learn about myself and my relationships. And it also helped me realize that I want a bigger purpose than what I had already started with my interior design business. And I wanted it to be even larger than that. And that has now led to the lifestyle brand, which is going to launch in June. So it was such a fascinating journey. And you're learning something new. Like, I was like, I'm a decent writer. I don't know that I'm a good enough writer, but everyone who's written a book would tell you almost anyone can write a book. If you have something to share and you have a message and something that can help someone else, you have a book. It doesn't have to be that long. And I set out wanting to make it be like 150 pages, and it ended up being 225 by the time I was done. And I probably could have kept going, but I was like, okay, enough. I need to wrap this up. I need to wrap this up.
For sure.
Yeah. But it's exposed me to people, and it's given me a platform that I never knew existed. I've met people as a result of my book that I never would have met, that some of them have like drastically changed so much of my life and just made me a better person. And I've learned things I never thought I would have learned. So writing the book actually was a true gift also.
That's beautiful. Thank you. It makes me think, I love the email, like, that sounds interesting. Oh, I guess I could put that on my calendar. I heard on another podcast recently, if there is something that you are kind of like, I think I could do that, you probably could. And so why not explore that? More recently, I went to a design conference like last year, and one of my coworkers was a presenter on stage amongst a lot of other presenters. And some of the people that got up there, I was like, I could do that. Yeah. And so nice. And yet it freaks me out, right? But to be up on a stage in front of a bunch of people presenting, but personal growth happens, and my goals, I have to set goals for the year at my company. I'm like, you know what? I should probably start working towards that and practicing and getting more comfortable, because it was something that I was like, I could do that. And now I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. That's exactly it. And now other things are going to come at you about that same subject, or challenge you, or give you the opportunity to do that. It's all about, I am a firm believer that the universe presents everything that you ever need if you are just paying attention. And I always say to people, if there's something that makes you take a pause, you need to pay attention to that. And if that pause is, my gut instinct tells me I shouldn't do this, then you're taking a pause and you should listen to that. Or this email came across my desk twice and it made me pause, and I was like, I should do that. And that changed my life. It's absolutely changed my life, writing a book. And so I try to pay a lot of attention to that now, because the universe is telling you, and the universe will lead you down the path that's right for you if you pay attention.
Yeah. Awesome. I think a lot of us walk around just as human beings, we're not noticing things. Start practicing. It's a practice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I often talk about paying attention to the things that like bring you joy. Like, that's going to help lead you down some options for this new career path that you could possibly pursue. similar to what did I like about working in corporate? What were the things that I want to keep doing? And what are things that I keep doing?
Getting clarity, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to be specific about what your goals are in order to be able to figure out how you create a path to get to those goals.
Yeah. Can you recommend any specific tools? So we talked about journaling a lot. Are there any, and I guess coaches, is there any other resources maybe that you might recommend to somebody who is trying to figure out their next career move or what they want to do?
Yeah, my favorite book that truly actually changed my life is called Comeback Careers. And Comeback Careers is written by two women, and it focuses on anyone who is 30, 40s, 50s, 60s, wants to come back into the workforce or wants to change careers. And the book is filled with stories of success, how people did that, and lots of exercises and things that you can do to try to help you find that path for yourself. And I bought that book. I got fired in January. I bought that book when I went on vacation in the middle of February. And by the time I was done with the book at the end of the vacation, I was like, okay, corporate America's out. Like, I was so motivated to figure out how to do something different because it's filled with all these success stories of things that really can excite you of, wow, if they did that, this person hadn't worked for 20 years and had to reinvent themselves. Look at that. And the book is also filled with tons of resources to help as well. My absolute favorite book. I recommend it to everybody. And my second favorite tool, which I didn't use at the time, but I use all the time now, are podcasts. You can learn so much from a podcast and what other people have done. And so finding a host of podcasts on different subjects that you're interested in, and even if it's not what you're doing right now for a living, if you're, like I said, I'm really interested now in nutrition and wellness. So I listen to the Genius Life all the time. And half the time it's way over my head because it's very science-based. But yet I find it really fascinating and I'm learning so many things and it sends me to articles and brands. And so find podcasts that interest you. And I have found I listen to at least 1 to 2 podcasts every day. You can listen to them in your car when you're driving. You can listen to them when you work out. You can listen to them when you're working. I listen to them fast at 1.75 speed because I live outside New York and we walk fast, talk fast. So I listen to them fast and it's amazing how much you can get in. But there's so much that you can learn and get inspired from other people's stories. And I think most people who go on podcasts as guests are very willing to share their story and to help people if you reach out to them.
Yeah, I love that because one of the very first podcasts I started listening to regularly led me to other podcasts, led me to people that resonated with me even more. And then I'm like, I continue to listen to those people today because of that. Yeah, I love that example.
Yeah. And you can learn so much, especially on the subject of business. There's so many business podcasts out there, like interior design, for example. The Business of Home and Trade Tales are phenomenal. I've learned so much about how to run an interior design business from those 2 podcasts. It's free education.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing those resources. I'm going to check out that book. I haven't.
Comeback Careers. It's a great one. Yep.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about your lifestyle brand that's coming out and any other offers that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah. So I have spent the last 5 months trying to figure out what's next and what's the bigger vision. And I am launching the House of Germar because I have Germar Designs, which is the interior design business, and I have Germar Publishing, which is the book and speaking and me writing articles and things like that get published. And so I spent a lot of time figuring out who do I want to be and what's my purpose and what's my message and what's the impact that I want to have. And so I'm launching the House of Germar in June. And it is a lifestyle brand that is all about empowering women to find their power and live within. And like living starts within, and that might be within your environment or it starts within yourself. And so giving them access to resources and building a community where people can feel like they can go for resources. And it can be everything from hiring me as an interior designer to do a wellness-led design for your house, to hiring me to come and speak, to me providing resources on things that partners in business that I have that provide products and services that I think are just, that I really strongly believe in terms of overall wellness, whether it be mental wellness or physical wellness. And it's going to include a podcast, and it includes articles and books and blogs and all of those things, and just trying to really build a community for women to come together to feel empowered. And my number one mission is to empower 1 million women to live all in through that platform.
Amazing.
Thanks. It's fun. It's cool.
Yeah. Where can people find you or find your book? Like, how do people work with you or
Work
just
with
learn
me.
from
Yep.
you?
So yes. Yeah. So I'm super active on Instagram. I post every day. And so my Instagram handle is at House of Germar. So it's HOUSE of Germar, JERMAR. And so I post there about everything from interior design to wellness to exercise, mental health, family, dogs, cooking, you name it. And then also my website is Germar Designs, JERMAR designs.com. It'll be changing to House of Germar, but it will all redirect to House of Germar in June. And my book is called 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-in Life. You can find it anywhere online that you would buy a book. The ebook exists on Amazon. And I also recorded the audio version of it. So you can listen to me for 5.5 hours to read the book, which I have done many times. It's actually fun to listen to yourself in some ways. And sometimes I need my own advice. So I am not shy to say that sometimes I need my own advice. And so you can buy that anywhere that you buy an audiobook. So I encourage people, buy the book, write a review. Reviews are really what helps us as authors to move up the Amazon ladder and for Amazon to notice us. So writing a review is so important, just like it is as a podcaster. Buy the book, write a review, and DM me and reach out to me and let me know what you think and how you connected with me, with my stories, how they connected with you.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, Brittany. It was so fun to speak with you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes. Thank you, Jeanne. It was a pleasure and honor. I'm so excited we got to chat and connect. So thank you again for being here.
I'm so grateful for Jeanne and the time she took to be on my podcast. I'm so inspired by the fact that she built a whole interior design firm from the ground up and that she was able to reflect on her goals and passions and really hone in on what she wanted her life to look like, what she wanted her career to look like for the next 20 or so years. And because of that, so many opportunities have presented themselves to her, and she's just taken them and run. And so I'm really grateful to have connected with her and would love to hear what you learned from this episode. Please make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you know of somebody who would benefit from listening to the amazing stories that I share on these podcast episodes, please share the podcast with a friend. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting this podcast and listening. Join me again next week for another amazing episode with another inspiring woman and her story of career change. I'm your host, Brittany Cates, and together, let's keep shifting your day job.